Hello and welcome to today's episode. I am Sakshi Mandwal and the subject expert is Ashish Garg. He is Zonal Technical Head of Maya Academy of Advanced Cinematic West at Aptech. This is our fifth and final episode, and today we will be exploring some more topics in Photoshop. I hope you enjoyed the Learning Photoshop in our fourth episode, and I am pretty much sure you all have started working on Photoshop. In our last episode, we learned about the clone tool, which we use to work on restorate the damaged images or to clone pixels to some another place. Also, we discussed about the Heal Brush tool, which works on the same line as clone tool works. But this tool matches the color luminosity according to the target color and luminosity. The next tool is Eraser. It is used to erase the pixels in your image. We discussed about the Pen tool, which is useful for selection of some of the part in any image. It gives you many options to select. You can select the curved areas easily. This tool is special because after the selection, you can edit it anytime and you can save your selection and the path and can use it at any point of time. We also learned about the Blur and Smudge tool to work on image manipulation. Blur helps you to give a blur effect on desired area, and through smudge, you can stretch your image pixels and give some artistic feeling. And now in the fifth and final episode, we will be learning some new tools, and they are 1. Filters and 2. Color correction with image. In Photoshop, filters are predefined presets, or you can say effects, which can be used to retouch or give some artistic touch, distort, sharpen or stylized effects in your images or artwork. In Photoshop, there are many default filters, and if you need more filters, you can download hundreds of filters from internet. Let's discuss about the filters one by one. First of all, we will see how and where from we can access the filters. In Photoshop, you will find a filter menu. As soon as you will click on it, you will see a drop-down list of sub-menus like Blur, Noise, Pixel, Distort, etc. In those sub-menus, you will find filters which can be applied on your image or artwork. So now we will be using filters one by one and we'll see how a filter manipulates your image. First of all, go to menu bar and click on Filter, and then on the Blur option. As soon as you will click on Blur or any sub-menus, you will find different types of filters. Let's take an image on which we will start applying the filters. So, Ctrl plus open and import any image on which you want to work. I hope you can see an image. Now I will apply filters on this image one by one. We'll start with Blur and we'll understand the different types of blur option and their parameters. Let's go to the filter menu and pick the blur option and pick average. Average filter finds the average color of an image or selection and then fills the image or selection with the color to create a smooth look. There are two more options with the name Blur and Blur More. These options eliminate the noise in the image. Blur filters smooth transitions by averaging the pixels next to the hard edges of defined lines and shaded areas. Blur More option is 2 to 4 times stronger than the Blur option. It gives minute blur on your image. Maybe you won't be able to see it properly, but never mind. We have some blur filters ahead in which you can control the amount of density of blur effect. So let's talk about the next blur option, which is Box Blur. Box Blur blurs an image based on the average color value of neighboring pixels. This filter is useful for creating special effects. You can adjust the size of the area used to calculate the average value for a given pixel. A larger radius results in greater blurring. Any blur option can be used on any selection. So let's take a selection and understand what happens when we apply blur on a selection. Gaussian Blur. In Gaussian Blur option, you blur a selection by an adjustable amount. It adds low frequency detail and it can produce a hazy effect. Motion Blur. It works in the specified direction from minus 360 degrees to plus 360 degree and at a specified intensity from 1 to 999. The filter's effect is analogous to taking a picture of a moving object with a fixed exposure time. Radial blur. It gives an effect of zooming or rotating camera to produce a soft blur. Choose spin to blur along concentric circular lines and then specify a degree of rotation. Choose zoom to blur along radial lines as if zooming into or out of the image and specify a value from 1 to 100. Blur quality ranges from draft for fast but grainy results or good and best for smoother results, which are indistinguishable from each other except on a large selection. Specify the origin of the blur by dragging the pattern in the blur center box. It takes some time to give the effect. Shape blur. It works on specific kernel to create the blur. Choose a kernel from the list of custom shape presets and use the radius slider to adjust its size. You can load different shape libraries by clicking the triangle and choosing from the list. In the shape blur, parameters radius determines the size of the kernel. The blur quality will depend on the kernel size. Smart blur. This filter blurs an image with precision. With the parameters of this filter, you can work on specific radius, threshold and a blur quality. The radius value determines the size of the area searched for dissimilar pixels. The threshold value determines how dissimilar the pixels must be before they are affected. You also can set a mode for the entire selection, normal or for the edges of color transitions, edge only and overlay. Where significant contrast occurs, edge only applies black and white edges and overlay edge applies white. Surface blur. Blurs an image while preserving edges. This filter is useful for creating special effects and for removing noise or graininess. The radius option specifies the size of the area sampled for the blur. The threshold option controls how much the tonal values of neighboring pixels must diverge from the center pixel value before being part of the blur. Pixels with tonal value differences less than the threshold value are excluded from the blur. This is how we can use blur filters for our images. After blur filters, let's understand distort filters. As the name is explaining about distort filter, these filters geometrically distort an image, creating 3D or reshaping effect. Distort filter can be very memory intensive. So, let's start understanding the distort filter. In distort category, first filter is pinch. Pinch. This filter squeezes a selection. A positive value up to 100% shifts the selection towards its center. A negative value up to minus 100% shifts a selection outward. After applying this filter, you get the result like this. Polar coordinates. It converts a selection from its rectangular to polar coordinates and vice versa, according to a selected option. You can use this filter to create a cylinder anamorphosis, an art form popular in the 18th century in which the distorted image appears normal when viewed in a mirrored cylinder. Ripples. Creates an undulating pattern on a selection, like ripples on the surface of a pond. For greater control, use the wave filter. Options include the number and size of ripples. You can see in the image after applying ripples. Shear. Distorts an image along a curve. Specify the curve by dragging the line in the box. You can add some more points on the curve to edit or change image according to your requirement. You can adjust any point along the curve. Click default to change the curve back to a straight line. In addition, you choose how to treat undistorted areas. Accordingly, you can work on Stylize, twirl, wave and zigzag. Use these filters and check the effect on your images. Stylize. Gives object a 3D effect by wrapping a selection around a spherical shape, distorting the image and stretching it to fit the selected curve. Twirl. Rotates a selection more sharply in the center than at the edges. Specifying an angle produces a twirl pattern. Wave. Works much as the ripple filter does, but with greater control. Options include the number of wave generators, wavelength, distance from one wave crest to the next, height of the wave and wave type, sine, rolling, triangle or square. The randomize option applies random values. You can also define undistorted areas. Zigzag. Distorts a selection radically depending on the radius of the pixels in your selection. The ridges option sets the number of direction reversals of the zigzag from the center of the selection to its edge. You also specify how to displace the pixels. Pond ripples displaces pixels to the upper left or lower right. Out from center displaces pixels towards or away from the center of the selection. And around center rotates pixels around the center. After distort, next filter category is noise. This filter category works to add or remove noise or pixels with randomly distributed color levels. This helps to blend a selection into the surrounding pixels. Add noise. It applies random pixels to an image, stimulating the effect of shooting pictures in high-speed film. You can also use the Add Noise filter to reduce banding in feathered selections or graduated fills, or to give a more realistic look to heavily retouched areas. In the parameters, there are two options. One is uniform and second is Gaussian. Uniform distributes color values of noise from using random numbers between 0 and plus or minus the specified value, creating a subtle effect. On the other hand, Gaussian distributes color values of noise along a bell-shaped curve, creating a speckled effect. The monochromatic option applies a filter to only the tonal elements in the image without changing the colors. Despeckle. This option helps to detect the edges in an image and blur all of the selection except those edges. This blurring removes noise while preserving detail. Dust and scratches. This option reduces noise by changing dissimilar pixels. To achieve a balance between sharpening the image and hiding defects, try various combinations of radius and threshold settings, or apply the filter to selected areas in the image. Median. This filter reduces noise in an image by blending the brightness of pixels within a selection. The filter searches the radius of a pixel, selection for pixels of similar brightness, discarding pixels that differ too much from adjacent pixels, and replaces the center pixel with the median brightness value of the searched pixels. This filter is useful for eliminating or reducing the effect of motion on an image. Now let's work on pixelate filters. Color halftone. This effect stimulates the effect of using an enlarged halftone screen on each channel of the image. For each channel, the filter divides the image into rectangles and replaces each rectangle with a circle. The circle size is proportional to the brightness of the rectangle. Crystallize. This option gives you a crystal effect on your image. It clumps the pixels into a solid color in a polygon shape. You can use cell size option to adjust the crystal size. Pace it. This filter is useful to clump pixels of solid or similar colors into blocks of like color pixels. This effect gives a feel of scanned image look hand painted. Try to explore fragment, mesoting, mosaic filter. Apply them on your images and notice the effect which you get. Fragment. This option creates 4 copies of the pixels in the selection, averages them and offsets them from each other. Mesoting converts an image to a random pattern of black and white areas or of fully saturated colors in a color image. To use the filter, choose a dot pattern from the type menu in the mesotent dialog box. Mosaic clumps pixels into square blocks. The pixels in a given block are the same color and the colors of the blocks represent the colors in the selection. The next filter category is Sharpen Filters. Sharpen filters help to improve the blurred images and increase the contrast of adjacent pixels. The first 2 filters are Sharpen and Sharpen More. Sharpen. Sharpen filter focuses a selection and improves its clarity. Sharpen Edges. Sharpen Edge filter finds the areas in the image where significant color changes occur and sharpen them. The Sharpen Edges filter sharpens only edges while preserving the overall smoothness of the image. Sharpen More. The Sharpen More filter applies a stronger sharpening effect than the Sharpen filter. Smart Sharpen sharpens an image by letting you set the sharpening algorithm or control the amount of sharpening that occurs in shadows and highlights. This is the recommended way to sharpen if you don't have a particular sharpening filter in mind. Unsharp Marks. This filter adjusts the contrast of edge detail and produces a lighter and darker line on each side of the edge. This process emphasizes the edge and creates the illusion of a sharper image. Next category of filters is Stylize. The Stylize filters produce a painted or impressionistic effect on a selection by displacing pixels and by finding and heightening contrast in an image. Diffuse. Diffuse filter shuffles pixels in a selection to soften focus according to the selected option. Normal moves pixels randomly, ignoring color values. Darken only replaces light pixels with darker ones, and lighten only replaces dark pixels with lighter ones. Anisotropic shuffles pixels in the direction of the least change in color. Emboss. This filter option makes a selection appear raised or stamped by converting its fill color to gray and tracing the edges with the original fill color. Options include an embossing angle from -360° to recess the surface to +360° to raise the surface. Height and a percentage, 1% to 500% for the amount of color within the selection. To retain color and detail when embossing, use the fade command after applying the emboss filter. Extrude. This filter gives a 3D texture to a selection or layer. There are two types of extrudes you can use. One is blocks and second one is pyramids. You can handle the size of the blocks with the size option. Accordingly, you can work on find edges, solarize, tiles, trace, contour and wind. Apply the filters on your image and check what effect you get. Find edges. This filter identifies the areas of the image with significant transitions and emphasizes the edges. Like the trace counter filter, find edges outlines the edges of an image with dark lines against a white background and is useful for creating a border around an image. Solarize. This option blends a negative and a positive image, similar to exposing a photographic print briefly to light during development. Tiles. This filter is useful to make an image into a series of tiles. Number of tiles option gives the freedom to give tile number in your image. You can choose one of the following to fill the area between the tiles: the background color, the foreground color, a reverse version of the image, or an unaltered version of the image, which puts the tiles version on top of the original and reveals part of the original image underneath the tiled edges. Trace contour. This option finds the transition of major brightness areas and thinly outlines them for each color channel for an effect similar to the lines in a contour map. Wind. This option places tiny horizontal lines in the image to create a wind effect on your image. There are three types in the method option. These are wind, blast, stagger. So these were filters. As I mentioned in the start that there are hundreds of filters available online, so you can download those filters and use them for your assignments. Next topic is color correction tools. Color correction is very important to treat your images and it helps to enhance the color quality or to give different treatment in your images. Let's understand all the color correction tools. You will get all the color correction options in menu, image, adjustment as shown in display image. In adjustment, sub-menu first option is brightness or contrast. Brightness or contrast. This option is useful to control the brightness or contrast adjustment in an image. Moving the brightness slider to the right increases tonal values and expands image highlights. To the left decreases values and expands shadows. The contrast slider expands or shrinks the overall range of tonal values in the image. You can see the changes after applying the brightness or contrast. With the help of this option, image looks better than the original. The next option is levels. Levels. Level is one of the options in adjustment, which helps us to control the highlight, mid-tone, shadow in any image and improve the color quality. You will find some ready-made presets in level option. You can work on specific channels like red, green or blue. By selecting the red channel, it will only work on red channel. If you will select the green channel, it will only work on green part in any image. Midpoint controls the gamma adjustment. The black and white point on left and right will change the highlight and shadow respectively in an image. After changing all the three sliders, you will get this result which is better than the original image. In this option, level histogram is a visual guide for adjusting the image keytones. Curves. You can use the curves dialog box to adjust the entire tonal range of an image. The curves dialog box lets you adjust up to 14 different points throughout an image's tonal range, from shadows to highlights. The levels dialog box has only 3 adjustments: white point, black point, gamma. You can also use the curves dialog box to make precise adjustments to individual color channels in an image. The next option in this category is exposure. Exposure. The exposure is designed for making tonal adjustments to HDR images, but it also works with 8-bit and 16-bit images. Exposure works by performing calculations in a linear color space, gamma 1.0, rather than the image's current color space. Vibrance. Vibrance works to adjust the saturation so that clipping is minimized as colors approach full saturation. This setting changes the saturation of all lower saturated colors with less effect on the higher saturated colors. Vibrance also prevents skin tones from becoming oversaturated. Saturation. Saturation helps to control the saturation of all image colors equally from -100 monochrome to +100, doubles the saturation. The next option is Hue, Saturation and Lightness. Hue, Saturation and Lightness. With the help of this option, we can control the HSL or grayscale to adjust individual color ranges. It has some default preset system which can be applied on your images. Apart from that, you can work in customized way on your image. Also, there is an option through which you can control the separate channel or a master channel color in a go. For example, if a red object looks too vivid and distracting, you can decrease the red's value in the nested saturation tab. By clicking the Colorize option, it will give you a single color tone on overall image. Color balance. The color balance command changes the overall mixture of colors in an image for generalized color correction. By selecting the shadows, midtones or highlights, you can change the tonal range. Black and white. This option lets us to convert a color image to grayscale while maintaining full control over how individual colors are converted. You can also tint the grayscale by applying a color tone to the image, for example, to create a sepia effect. Black and white functions like the channel mixer, which also converts color images to monochrome while allowing you to adjust color channel input. Photo filter. This option gives you a single color tone on your image. It is same like you put a color filter in front of your camera lens and gets the color according to your filters. This option has different types of ready-made presets also. Invert. The invert option inverts the color in an image. You can use this command as part of the process of making an edge mask to apply sharpening and other adjustments to selected areas of an image. Posterize. This command lets you to specify the number of tonal levels for each channel in an image and then maps pixels to the closest matching level. The number lies in between 0 to 255. This is quite simple to understand. If you take the level only 2, then you will get 6 colors in your image. 2 from red, 2 from green, 2 from blue. Threshold. This option helps to convert the grayscale or color images into high contrast, black and white images. We can manipulate the certain level as a threshold. As soon as you apply this option on your image, all the pixels lighter than the threshold are converted to white and all pixels darker are converted to black. Gradient map. This option maps the equivalent grayscale range of an image to the color of a specified gradient fill. If you specify a 2-color gradient fill, for example, shadows in the image are mapped to one of the endpoint colors of the gradient fill, highlights are mapped to the other endpoint color, and midtones are mapped to the gradations in between. Selective color. This option is a technique used by high-end scanners and separation programs to change the amount of process colors in each of the primary color components in an image. You can modify the amount of a process color in any primary color selectively, without affecting the other primary colors. Shadow or highlight. This option is suitable for correcting photos with silhouetted images due to strong backlighting or correcting subjects that have been slightly washed out because they were too close to the camera flash. It is also useful for brightening areas of shadow in an otherwise well-lit image. The shadow or highlight command does not simply lighten or darken an image. It lightens or darkens based on the surrounding pixels, local neighborhood in the shadows or highlights. For this reason, there are separate controls of the shadows and the highlights. The defaults are set to fix images with backlighting problems. The shadow or highlight command also has a mid-tone contrast slider, black clip option and white clip option for adjusting the overall contrast of the image. Variation. This option lets you adjust the color balance, contrast and saturation of an image by showing you thumbnails of alternatives. This command is most useful for average key images that don't require precise color adjustments. It does not work on indexed color images or 16-bit per channel images. Desaturate. This option lets you to convert a color image to grayscale values but leaves the image in the same color mode. For example, it assigns equal red, green and blue values to each pixel in an RGB image. The lightness value of each pixel does not change. Match color. The match color command can adjust the brightness, color saturation and color balance in an image. The advanced algorithms in the match color command give you better control over luminance and color components of the image. Because you are adjusting the color in a single image rather than matching the colors between two images, the image you're correcting is both the source and the target image. Replace color. This command lets you create a mask to select specific colors in an image and then replace those colors. You can set the hue, saturation and lightness of the selected areas, or you can use the color picker to select the replacement color. By changing the hue, saturation, you can see the color changes in your image. In the navigation, you can see the white and black color. White means the selected area and black means unselected or unaffected area. Let's see one more example using replace color command. You can also add or subtract selection by using picker and the replace color command. The mask created by the replace color command is temporary. In this episode, we learned about the uses of different types of filter categories like blur, distort, stylize, sharpen, etc. Filters can be very useful while you're working on treatment on images and can be useful for making some effects by using two or more than two filters. After that, we learned about the various images adjustment commands. In image adjustment command, we discussed about the levels, curves, hue, saturation and brightness, color balance, etc., which is useful to color correct or enhance the color quality of any image. In post-processing of photographs, all the artist works on these commands to enhance their clicks or images. This is very useful process for photographs and films. In fact, in films you will get almost same adjustment commands. To understand the color correction, one needs to have a very good knowledge of color wheel and should have a good color sense. This was a last episode of Photoshop. Photoshop is very vast software and can be explored more by practicing on it. As I have addressed this, that this is one of the popular softwares in the world and everyone should know at least Photoshop to get into the different industries. It has a vast market and almost in every place it is being used. So all the best to all of you and get in touch if there is any query regarding the software. That is all that we had for you for today. Thank you and goodbye.